Beautiful house. Thanks. Did you get an inheritance? Maybe you've heard a version of that before. Maybe it wasn't a house. Maybe it was your job, your accent, your partner, your degree, your body. Something you work hard for. And then someone asks a question that sounds completely normal on paper. But somehow, the moment it leaves their mouth, your smile freezes. Your stomach drops. And you suddenly feel like you're defending yourself in a conversation that was supposed to be friendly. What's strange is that these moments almost never start with an insult. They start with small talk. And somehow, somewhere along the way, the conversation turns into something else. Why does that happen? Why does small talk so often end up feeling like an interrogation? If you start paying attention, these conversations tend to follow a pattern. Well, not always. Not every personal question is a sorting attempt. Sometimes people are genuinely curious. But there's a particular type of interaction where the questions don't stop after they have an answer. They keep digging, and that usually happens in stages. The first stage is what I call the casual filter. What do you do? Where did you buy that? What area do you live in? Where did you go on a holiday? Nothing offensive, nothing particularly invasive. Most of these questions are completely normal, but they are often doing something more than making conversation. They are helping the other person place you somewhere. Profession, class, education, lifestyle, background. The boxes aren't necessarily malicious. They are just quick, efficient. The fastest way for a stranger to figure out who they are talking to. Most of the time, the conversation stays there, but sometimes it moves to the second stage, the double take. This happens when your answer doesn't match what the other person expected. I'm from London. No, where are you really from? Or maybe you hand in excellent work, and instead of hearing, great job, you hear, wow, did someone help you with that? It's a subtle moment. The answer you've already given isn't accepted. Something about it doesn't fit the person's mental picture, so they push back. Not because they are necessarily trying to be cruel, because their expectation and reality don't match. And then sometimes comes the third stage, the invasive downgrade. The question that sounds curious, but somehow feels accusatory. How did you afford this place? Did your parents pay for it? Did you get lucky? Are you taking supplements? Did you get an inheritance? The question isn't really about understanding what happened. It's about finding an explanation that reduces what happened. A shortcut. A reason why your success isn't quite what it appears to be. And that's usually the moment something changes. You realize no answer is actually going to satisfy them. Because they are not looking for information. They are looking for a category. And once you feel that happening, the conversation stops feeling like a conversation. It starts feeling like an interview. Or worse, an inspection. So where does this come from? For most of human history, strangers weren't really strangers. You met people through mutual friends, through family, through your neighborhood, through your village. You had context, a shared reference point, built-in layer of trust. People could learn who you were slowly. Today, that context is mostly gone. We interact with hundreds of people we know almost nothing about. Workers, customers, passengers, followers, matches on dating apps, people we've never met and may never see again. And yet, our brains still want to answer the same questions they always wanted answered. Who is this person? The difference is that now we want the answer immediately. Imagine walking to a car dealership. A salesperson greets you, friendly, polite, relaxed. But every question is doing two jobs at once. What do you do? Where do you live? What kind of car do you drive now? On the surface, it's conversation. Underneath, they are scanning. Can this person afford it? Are they serious? Are they worth the next 10 minutes? That's not a sales trick. That's what happens to conversation when there's no time to build trust the slow way. And modern life has quietly trained all of us to do the same thing. Not because we are manipulative, because we are overloaded, constantly meeting people with zero context. So we compress trust building into seconds. We use questions to sort, to estimate, to classify. The problem is that people aren't categories, and eventually the sorting process starts showing cracks. Here's the strange thing. Most people don't realize they're doing it. Think about the first stage questions. What do you do? Where's that from? What area are you in? Often, the person asking doesn't care much about the actual answer. The answer is a bridge. They're trying to get somewhere else. They are building a model. And human beings build models using categories. Psychologists call this schemas, mental shortcuts that help us navigate a complicated world. Without them, everyday life would be overwhelming. The problem is what happens when reality doesn't fit the shortcut. Someone doesn't look like they're from where they say they're from. Someone succeeds in a way you didn't expect. Someone's background doesn't match your assumptions. Your mental model suddenly develops a crack. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance. Most of us experience it constantly, and our instinct isn't usually to sit comfortably with uncertainty. It's to repair the model and do it fast. Which is why somebody says, "No, where are you really from?" Or, "Did someone help you with that?" Or, "How did you afford that?" They are trying to make the picture make sense again. And from their perspective, they are often being completely reasonable, completely friendly. They don't feel this sting because they are focused on their own intention, not the impact. In their mind, they are gathering information. In yours, they are questioning your legitimacy. And that's where the disconnect begins. For a long time, I thought these interactions didn't really affect me. Then I moved back home and went back onto dating apps. And something strange happened. Complete strangers would ask where I was from, and I'd answer. And then came the follow-up. "No, where are you really from?" And what surprised me wasn't the question, it was the feeling. Because this is my home. I grew up here, I live here, I belong here. And yet, somehow, after a conversation with a stranger I would probably never meet, I felt like a foreigner in my own country. That's the hidden cost of this kind of sorting. The problem isn't just that people put you into boxes. It's that they quietly override the identity you already gave them. The answer wasn't accepted. The category mattered more. And if that happens often enough, something else begins to happen. People get flattened. The complexity disappears. The history disappears. Contradictions disappear. Everything that makes them unique gets compressed into a single label. And we can see exactly the same process happening online. A single tweet, a single opinion, a single mistake, a single political belief. And suddenly, an entire human being gets reduced to a category. The mechanism is identical. The internet just does it faster. At office speed, someone becomes an interchangeable cog. At dinner table speed, someone becomes a stereotype. At internet speed, someone becomes a hashtag. Either way, the label replaces the person. And over time, people start adapting to the labels they are given. They stop explaining themselves, stop resisting, stop correcting. They learn what box they are expected to occupy. And eventually, they crawl inside it. They start performing the caricature that was built around them. Maybe the answer isn't to stop asking questions. Curiosity matters, connection matters, getting to know people matters. The problem begins when questions stop being about understanding and start being about qualification. When the goal becomes figuring out what someone is rather than discovering who they are. The next time you meet somebody, resist the urge to solve them immediately. Resist the urge to place them into the fastest available category. Let them remain complicated. Let them surprise you. Let them contradict your expectations. Because belonging doesn't come from fitting perfectly into somebody else's box. It comes from being allowed to exist outside of one. And maybe that's the difference between a conversation and an interrogation. One is trying to understand a person. The other is trying to classify them. Thanks a lot and have a great day.